Welcome to Sensi Sessions. We're so proud to promote plant-based options, holistic healing, green living, and the pioneers supporting your quest for health and joyful living. This is Sensi Sessions.
Hey, what's up, y'all? Richard Guerra with Sensi Media here. We're fired up to kick off a new video editorial series for the new year. And stoked to be speaking today with Zan Kavanah, Business Development with Greenlink Merchants. Hey, Zan.
Hi, Richard. Thank you so much. I'm super excited to be here. I think it's really wonderful what you guys are doing at Sensi and really expanding out, because it's important for people to understand what's going on in the industry. It's like so busy for everybody to be doing their business. We're all so busy, but sometimes we just need to stop and have conversations so we can learn a little bit more about what's going on. So I really appreciate you having myself and Greenlink Merchants on today.
We kind of, over the years at Sensi, it's awesome for me personally because we get to educate and learn, but also share what we learned in terms of consumer focused things around the medicine and the plants, but also often about the industry that's always evolving and changing. And new people are jumping in all the time. You know, today you may not have this may not have a lot of relevance to someone, but you know, a few years down the line, who knows, it may be very relevant depending on what new job they take or new business they begin in this amazing space. So I'll tell you a little bit about Greenlink. So Greenlink Merchants provides top-notch service and reliable, compliant payment processing solutions for your cannabis or high-risk business. Greenlink's committed to delivering an extensive array of payment processing options that not only provide diversity, but also save clients valuable time and money. And we were able to do a little survey with a number of Massachusetts operators to see what they wanted to hear from the payment processing experts. So as we see, their hashtag call Zan is here to break it down. And so, you know, in the cannabis industry, what specific challenges do businesses face when it comes to payment or processing PIN debit transactions compared to credit card transactions, Zan? And how does adapting to these distinctions impact their overall operations and profitability?
Yeah, great question. Most recently, it impacts their businesses a lot, right? So we had cashless ATM, which was a standard for a while there, and then everybody got really comfortable with PIN debit. What I could say is, like, don't get comfortable. In fact, Johnny says that to me too. Like, don't get comfortable, because this industry is changing all the time. Exactly, which is kind of fun, you know. Definitely not for dispensary owners, however. So how it has impacted them is, you know, MasterCard had about 4 different solutions for PIN debit, and now there's one. So anybody who has PIN debit that's still up and running at 90%, kudos to you, because not many of them are. And a lot of them were attached to POS companies that basically, you know, they were doing their own payment processing, and they expanded their list. And all of a sudden there was like a lot of dispensaries, and MasterCard went in there and they said, we're not doing that anymore. So now the options are limited, which is good in my opinion, because the alternative is credit card, which is legal and compliant. How we do that is it looks normal to the customer, but the bank is actually holding the liability, right? They're the merchant on file. So it's not the dispensary. So the dispensary is not going to be able to touch it. So that's really important for dispensaries to know going forward, so they can take credit and debit. And it's going to be a lot easier for their customers going forward. I think it's important because people's perception of dispensaries, it's like, yes, we know that first, it's still a Schedule 1, right? So we know that logically, but when we're out shopping, we don't really want to go find cash, right? I was just telling you a story earlier about when I was in LA, and there was four out of 5 of the dispensaries I had to pay cash. Well, thankfully I had that, but you're not able to actually like upsell any of your basket sizes when you're just doing cash. And it's sticky. It's an icky feeling, like, because you're like, wait a minute, you've spent so much money branding this beautiful store, whether it's your artwork or your cannabis lounge, right? Or you're having live music, whatever you're doing. And then you're coming in and you're making me pay cash, right? And it's not their fault, because they're limited in what is available to them, but they're not. They actually do. We do have solutions. It's just a matter of learning them. It is not illegal, like everybody thinks. I'll call dispensaries and they'll say, oh, it's illegal to do credit cards. No, it's high risk and there's ways around it. And until the Safe Banking Act is actually, comes into effect and actually affects the industry, this is the best option. But we give them all options. So
yeah, and as I talk to a lot of retailers, and those are the partners that we have that are only, especially, but just the retail component of these cannabis businesses that are vertically integrated, it is it's tough, and the job is like get people to not only get in the door to come purchase product, but get them to keep coming back. And I think we know non-endemic, just outside of cannabis, when it comes to consumers and retailers, when they have options, especially whether it's restaurants or anything else, like you really want that experience to go well. You want it to feel good. You want it to be smooth. They have a good memory of that in their subconscious. They'll pick you again next time and they'll come back. But if they show up, they get in the door, they learn a lot, they interact, and then come to find out they needed cash. They don't have that. That is, and it's just basically not going to be that smooth and that positive of an experience. They'll have to leave. They'll have to go do this, that, and the other. Most people maybe will be perfectly okay with that, but others, I think, as we know, can be a little fickle when it comes to their choices.
Yeah, they're really pushing for the cashless, right? And I, like I said, I was in Seattle and it was everywhere. And it was kind of a little odd for me to think like cash is king. That is what everybody states. The cash is king, but it's actually not. They're trying to distinguish it. So it's just a thing where, as a dispensary owner, you want to make sure that you're covered. In this situation, I got so many phone calls where people are like, we're screwed. The industry's screwed. Like, we can't do pandemic anymore. It's like, no, you're not actually screwed. Like, that solution might be screwed, which is another reason that Greenlink is here to service everybody, because we have multiple solutions and we make sure that we're on top of it. Like Johnny, like you said, Johnny's been in the business. That's our CEO for over 6 years. That guy knows everybody.
Yeah, you and Johnny, and like when it comes to this, you'll help these folks be nimble, and that's what you got to do. You got this business, you put all this time and money into it. Sure, you're screwed momentarily, but that can't persist. It just can't. And so these things that come up that are challenges that are just a part of the game right now, like you need to know who to trust for sure, and you got to be ready to shift and figure it out. And so in an industry where legal and regulatory uncertainties persist, how do payment processors safeguard themselves from being shut down?
Right.
I think you alluded to some folks saying they're worried about it. And could you provide specific strategies or measures that they can implement to ensure uninterrupted cannabis merchant processing? So what can they do to make sure this isn't going to screw with their business, as you're saying?
Well, that is like such an important thing. I mean, I had a couple dispensaries even out in New York, and they couldn't because you have to be able to pay for the product prior to delivery. So when a certain POS payment processor went down, they couldn't even do business, right? So that is an issue. And
I remember reading about that.
A lot of people have a backup. They used to have a backup PIN debit. I say have a backup credit card option. So here's the thing. If you don't know what the match list is, it's member alert to control high-risk merchants, right? So just think of it as the naughty list. If you get on that list, you are not getting merchant services for 5 years. So how do you get on that list? You are the merchant on record. So if your client is swiping their card and your dispensary is on that receipt and or on that customer statement, you are now at risk of being on the match list. It's that simple. And that's kind of scary.
Yeah, I never heard about that till today. But I'm one of those guys that's I hang with a lot of operators and retailers, but I have yet to ever be one. I don't know if I ever will. And this is this conversation. I knew going into it that I would be learning some new things and also feeling for them. So.
Well, and let me tell you, to get off that match list, it's like get a DUI. Is really what I'm going to tell you. It's about $10,000 to have somebody go figure out how to scrub you off that match. So you just do not want to be on that match list. So the option that I like to offer, right, is the legal and compliant credit card option, because the bank that is actually running the processing is the one that's liable. They're the ones that is taking all the risk. and not the dispensaries. Their name is actually what's on the receipt and the customer statement.
That
And
seems
therefore, you're literally hands free. So there's a lot of conversations, a lot of emails back and forth when I try to explain to people how this works. But I can tell you that nobody's been shut down. It's not an issue. And we are operating legally and compliant. We run through compliance for states. We run through banks that have run. I mean, I have done the gamut with dispensaries just to get them to feel comfortable that nothing's going to happen to them and nothing's going to allow them to get shut down. It's MasterCard and Visa. Okay, they don't really have the right or anything to shut you down, right? They just take away your payments, right? Mm-hmm. That's your cash flow. And if you're running a business, it's super important that your cash flow stays constant. We have switched, I think it was like over 30 different dispensaries and a couple MSOs in the last 2 weeks, ever since this whole pandemic nightmare. Pandemic-ageddon is what I like to call it. Wow. Before that went down. And we got everybody up and running, and it runs credit and debit. So that's one
to the
way.
Rescue.
That's one they can protect themselves. And we're moving into an era where cannabis is slowly becoming, right, more commonplace. Not slowly, but it's, over 10 years. The Safe Banking Act's been around for 10 years, right? So finally we're getting some recognition. I think what Biden said, oh yeah, maybe we're thinking about descheduling it down, so there's talk, but when is that going to happen? So this is the solution for right now. This is a high-risk cannabis space, and debit, it's just not the safest option right now.
Yeah, and we often hear that accepting credit cards can enhance the customer experience, but how does that translate to tangible benefits for these businesses? And
yeah, well, look, it's like we were talking about at the beginning of this conversation when I went into the store, and actually, like here in Florida, which not a super fan of what's going on here in Florida cannabis. But I went to a dispensary that was, part of a multi-state operation, and they didn't have PIN debit, and they didn't even have an ATM in the building. And they literally told me to go across the street to take cash out of the convenience store. That has an impact on your customer. And you know what? I will never go back to that store ever again because it's an inconvenience. People are so accustomed, right? So the thing is that we need to make sure to prevent that. Now, let's talk about basket size. So I have a lot of dispensaries I talk to that, look, we got New York and California, those guys, basket size are like $100 to $150. But a lot of the states that are, more central to the nation are closer to like 55 and 65. And they're not really going past that. So one way that you can increase that is by offering credit cards, because now your bud tenders can upsell your products, right? And also I went into one of the locations to get a vape, and it's like a $50 situation, and I didn't have that cash because I'd already been to a bunch of dispensaries and spent all my cash. And so the thing is that I couldn't use my credit card, right? So he couldn't even upsell me anything. It was just kind of and that's this awkward silence where you're like, oh, I really want this thing. You never want to be in the way of a consumer who wants to buy a product. That is the biggest no-no, right? And that's going to increase your basket size. And the thing is also, I want to add this, is that most PIN debit provider, when you guys use PIN debit, you're charging about $3. In California, they're charging $6, by the way, to use PIN debit. But it's up to you guys to decide what that fee is. That fee is generally going to cover any of the fees between PIN debit and credit card. Now, in the world of PIN debit, the dispensaries were making a little bit more money on that because they could actually keep some of that money. In credit cards, it's just really kind of covering your costs, so that it is a business expense, and it's going to be better for you because you're making anywhere from 25 to 40% more, right? So when you're talking about the math, you're making more. Yeah, you're going to spend a little bit more on the credit cards, but you're making more. Let's just be real here. I think we have a lot of intelligent consumers out there that understand that when you use your credit card, you get miles, you get cash back, you're in a business, you can track your expenses, right? So, and debit, so, regular debit, and that's coming directly out of your bank. there's no protection for you actually. So a lot of people do use credit for that. But let's talk about the tourists and in the dispensaries. You know, I was in Westwood and I went into the dispensary and I asked her, would it be helpful for you to have credit cards? And she was like, yeah, because all these people come in, they don't have cash. All they have is their credit card. And now I have to turn them away or send them somewhere to go get it, right? That if you want to normalize this business and you want your customers to be more fluid and like happy in the way that they're paying, is like, don't block them. Like bring an alternative in that's going to allow them. So it's the smart dispensary owners that are doing this. We have a lot of multi-state operators that are in fact doing this. So this is not new. This is not scary. This is not something that's illegal. You know, I think that's the biggest thing that I want to get across to everybody. And I'm happy to dive deeper. We have, you know, legal opinion letters. We have all kinds of things to talk to your either bank or your attorney or your CEOs.
That's good to know. Yeah. Because I mean, that when it gets down to this type of a shift or a change or a decision being made by a retailer, especially one with a lot of locations or potentially a multi-state operator. Yeah, it's important that they're able to do this due diligence and just generally really get down to business to see that not only are you saying that this is the right move or it is safe, but it's actually like backed by what their team needs to see.
Yeah. I mean, you know, a lot of I'm hearing a lot of also pop-up dispensaries that are just doing like little farmers markets and pop-ups and things like that. And so those are covered. The city of San Francisco did a massive event. It was like a big festival, and they had our solution of credit cards that was in there. So, you know, if I actually call in California, and I'd say 50% are already taking credit cards. So coming to Massachusetts for me is like super exciting because we've been definitely talking with some of the dispensaries out here that are interested, but I think they just don't know enough of what's going on. So I'm here with my green jacket and Greenlink to educate everybody on how that is and to walk you through. And also, I do want to say to this audience, anybody who is watching this, we can do a month-to-month trial. So if you are concerned and if you are wanting to see the numbers, a lot of people want to prove the numbers before to make sure, just do a trial. Right. Especially now because we're in November, December. I mean, get it up for the holidays. If you have a little bit of extra income coming in, you're going to thank Zan. # call Zan and then thank her.
All right. Yeah. Right. Here's Zan's email again. We had the website up there, and
yeah, they can just call. They can just send me an email. If you go to our website, which is greenlinkmerchants.com, they can just get started. You can find my calendar there. You can just sign up with me right there. It's really, really easy. The thing is that I want to also just speak to is that, you know, some of these payment processors, they're individual. Okay, they're one payment process, and they're trying to put you in because they're trying to make sales, and or they're VC funded, so they got to make sales. Johnny and I are good people. We're originally based out of Colorado. Johnny's out of Colorado, started in Colorado, and we know what Colorado was, one of the initiators in this entire movement, right? Mm-hmm. So there's nobody who really knows that industry more, and we're here to help. We're cool. We're not some corporation. Yeah. So, and I treat everybody like they're my best friend. Sometimes he thinks I'm too enthusiastic, but that's just who I am because I'm actually a former business owner in a different industry, and I love business, and I want these business owners to be successful. There are so many challenges out there for dispensaries to break through. I understand it, and I really want to make it easy for them. I don't want them to worry about it. So we handle it for you. So that's really just what I want to say is that we're here to really support.
Thank you for all this information today. I'm really excited to get it out there and have it be evergreen and be able to, you know, be referenced for the time to come until, you know, who knows, until that thing that we're waiting on occurs and we're in a whole different paradigm. And we'll have to talk again.
Yeah, for sure.
But I wanted to kind of just share a little info about the party that we have coming up next weekend. So on Sunday night, November 12th in Massachusetts, 7 to 11 p.m. So It's the Harvest Cup after party. So the Harvest Cup is going to be the 11th and the 12th at the DCU Center in Worcester. And so we're doing the after party to really round out the whole weekend Sunday night. And it's Belushi's Farm and Local Roots present Sensi Night.
Local Roots.
Yeah, exactly. So Local Roots is the partner that Belushi's Farm has in Massachusetts. Super fired up to have them both involved for the first time with us at an event. And we're bringing out Jim Belushi. He'll be playing, maybe 5 or 6 songs, sitting in with the Sensi All-Stars, our kind of house band. Amazing band. I was kind of talking to Jim about it. I think he's probably just extremely excited, it sounds like, once we kind of broke down how big the band is and the horns. And I got to listen to him sing a little bit on Zoom. It was fun. So
cool.
A lot of people look forward to meeting him. He's been kind of coming out to Massachusetts more and more. So and you can use your phone and you can just scan that QR code there if you want any more information or you haven't gotten your tickets yet. And you can hit me up as well. So, richard.guerra@sensimag.com is my email. I don't have it at the bottom here, but I do have a little ticker there. Boom. So, come meet Zan and Greenlink at the Sensi Night Harvest Cup after party. So that's at the Palladium, just a few blocks away from the conference.
Yeah, man.
You're going to just have the best time and a really successful weekend, and you're going to be leaving a lot of impact for the Massachusetts market. And that's super important to us. So,
yeah. I'm really excited. I've actually never been to Boston. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Virgin trip.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Zan. Hashtag call Zan. Shout out. Right. Thanks, everybody.
All right. I'll see you guys next weekend. Goodbye.
This has been a production of Sensi Media Group. We're so glad that you joined us. To learn more about cannabis, plant-based medicine, and green living, visit us at sensimag.com.